The cycling industry is flooded with small Chinese brands trying to get themselves and their products noticed. But Yoeleo, well, these guys have been at it for quite some time now. So is this just another set of wheels from another Chinese brand? Or has Yoeleo used their years of experience, listened to us cyclists and given us something special? You might be surprised. I was. This is my favourite wheel set right now, the gravel specific iCan G25. Now it's not because they're 6% stiffer, 7% faster and 8% more ceramic coated. No, it's because they're light, bomb-proof and great value for money. So these new gravel specific wheels from Yoeleo are going to have to work very hard to make me want to give them up. Just to be clear, I didn't buy these wheels. Yoeleo sent them to me free of charge for me to produce an unbiased evaluation of them. I'm not reading from a Yoeleo script, and what I tell you today are my own thoughts. Right, let's get them out the box. So this latest offering from Yoeleo only came out a couple of weeks ago on Valentine's Day. How romantic is that? Now this is what they're calling the NxT SL C45. Just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it? When will these companies learn? Now this slots into their pre-existing gravel range, but does differ from the other gravel wheels in their range in a few specific areas. Right, so let's have a quick look at the headline stats. 45mm deep, very much gravel specific wheel set. I'll get onto why it's very much in a minute. Carbon rims, a hooked tubeless design, steel spokes, steel bearings and UCI approved. How fancy is that? Now these will come in at roughly £800, which is roughly €950 or $999. So in the grand scheme of things, those stats make them sound very average, don't they? But it's when you look a little closer, do you see the difference? So on the back of my last video, I now include the packaging in my checklist. How exciting does this bit sound? But crikey, this is the best packed wheels I've ever seen. They were shipped in 2 separate boxes under 2 separate consignments, and they were so well packed. They were surrounded all the way round by 4 centimetres of this thick foam. If I'm honest, they didn't need the van for the last bit. They could have just chucked them out of the plane on the way over. The hubs that Yoeleo has used looked familiar to me, so I dropped them an email and I said, what brand of hub are you using? They actually said it's their own in-house design, the 230 NxT. Fair enough. One of the first standout features of this hub is the end cap design, and what Yoeleo has done is they've incorporated something called a labyrinth seal. If you look a bit closer at the end cap, basically instead of having a single plate, you've got these 2 plates side by side, and what this basically means is any dirt, crud or crap needs to follow a very convoluted path in order to be able to get to the bearing. And then to also be double sure, what they've also done is they've also put a rubber O-ring in its way. Out of all of the wheels I've reviewed recently, this end cap design is without a doubt the best, and will go a long way to help to protect those bearings. Now on the subject of bearings, Yoeleo has used TPI, and the variant they've used is 2 full rubber seals, so that will offer even further protection from the elements. Now the bearing type is stainless steel, but if ceramic is your thing, then Yoeleo isn't offering it on this particular wheel set yet. Now I've heard a few people say that TPI make bearings for DT Swiss. Not sure how true that is, but what I do know is they've been making bearings for a very long time. If you want to know a bit more detail about the particular bearing used, great thing is you can go on the TPI website and find out all the information you could possibly want. Now it's good practice to put a thin film of grease over the body of the bearing just to protect it from water ingress, and it's great to see that Yoeleo has done it on both of these wheels. Now what I have noticed is out the box they're not the most free spinning of wheels, and I'm putting this down to the bearing being used with 2 rubber seals. That's causing a little bit of friction, but I imagine they will speed up with use. Looking at the rear wheel now, the free hub used is very loud and really does resonate through the body of the wheel. To get the free hub off is a simple affair. You just pull off the end cap like so, And then the free hub body just slides away very easily, so it's simple to maintain and clean. What's great to see is they've not cut corners here, and they've given the wheel the more modern ratchet style free hub system. This particular one is the 36 tooth, but 54 tooth is easily upgradable if that's your thing. But what's great about this is it gets rid of that worry about replacing the free hub mechanism, because this DT Swiss style system is now generic and you can just buy it off the shelves. One of the really popular trends right now in hub design is to have the spoke and hub interface very open. And this is where the spoke slots into the hub from the side and is held captive under its own tension. Now this is a gravel wheel that's going to potentially take a bit of a kick in, so it's great to see that Yoeleo has kept to the tradition and the spoke is held fully captive within an eyelet, so there's absolutely no chance that if the spoke was to take an impact that it would just pop out. So the most important things to me on a gravel hub are covered here. The weather protection, it's brilliant. Bearings used are a good quality bearing from a trusted brand. The free hub body is a good quality free hub that's easy to maintain, and the spokes are held in place and fully captive. So onto the very important subject of spokes, and once again Yoeleo's got it right here. They've gone for a trusted brand that's available off the shelf. In this particular case, it's the Pillar Aero 20s. So you're looking at an aero spoke which is 1.2 millimeters thick by 2 millimeters wide. Now on this one, the front wheel, where there's a bit of load on the rotor side, we've got 2 points of crossing, but on the other side where there's no load, we've just got a radial design. And when we look at the rear wheel, on the rotor side where there's going to be load, once again it's crossed, and we've also got a crossed pattern on the drive side. Now Yoeleo could have saved a few grams on the wheel and gone with the very trendy right now carbon spoke, but they have been sensible and stuck with the traditional steel. The carbon spoke is very strong radially, but not so strong from the side. And what's also great is they've included this little bag here with a few spares in it. I'm assuming that's the valves. So you've got a few spare spokes in here as well. But to be honest, because Yoeleo has used the popular pillar spoke, they're very easy to get anyway. You can pick these up on places like eBay or Amazon for like £1 a spoke. So on to the exciting bit that everyone wants to hear about, the rims. They are 45 millimeters deep, a unheard of in the world of gravel, 27 millimeters wide internally and 34 millimeters wide externally. The rims themselves are made from T800 carbon, and both the front and the rear are a simple symmetrical design. As I mentioned previously, the rims themselves are a tubeless hooked design. From my experience, people want to buy hooked. They accept hookless because that's what they're given either on the bike they get, or the brand that they want to buy only gives it as an option as hookless, but people don't choose hookless as an option. If you imagine you were on a website choosing your set of wheels and it gave you, do you want hooked or do you want hookless, and the price was the same, you wouldn't say, oh, I'll have hookless please, because people don't want to buy it. They want to buy hooked wheels given the option. And I think that's why we're seeing only hooked wheels coming out of China right now. So the standout feature here as far as the rim is concerned is that internal measurement, 27 millimeters. I can't think of any other manufacturer that does a gravel wheel that is that wide internally. To put that girth into some perspective for you, this is a relatively modern Hunt road wheel. It's 3 years old, I think. This Hunt road wheel will fit inside this gravel wheel. That is how wide it is. So with a rim that wide internally, you are limiting yourself to what size tyre you can use, and you're going to have to use a minimum of 35 millimeters. So this wheel set clearly falls into the category of gravel. you can't put a set of squidgy tyres on it and put it on your road bike thinking you're going to get a bit more comfort, because they probably wouldn't fit. Another standout feature of this rim design is the rim bed is holeless. And what this basically means is there are no holes in the rim bed to get to the back of the spokes. What this means is you don't have to use rim tape. So for tubeless users, this is a godsend. Now, one important thing I always forget to mention in my videos is system limit. How much weight will the wheels take? Well, this particular wheel set, its weight limit is 135 kilos. So if you say that our bike and all the crap we carry in our pockets probably makes up 10 kilos, that leaves 125 kilos left over, which equates to roughly 20 stone. So it's quite a lot. Now, on the subject of weight, you're probably wondering what these come in at. First of all, the front, 645 grams. Next up, the rear, 746 grams. So that's 1,391 grams. That's quite impressive. One of the best ways to work out how well a wheel has actually been bolted together is to use this medieval looking thing, the wheel truing stand. We've had it on the channel before where wheels looked to be great, but then we got them on here and we found out the real truth. So the first thing we're going to use the truing stand for is to check for lateral movement. And what is that in English? Left and right movement. Is the wheel buckled? So to give you an idea, what I always say on the channel, anything that's below 0.3 of a millimetre, that's really good, that's fantastic. So 0.3 of a millimetre to 0.5, 0.6-ish, that's good. And then above 0.6, without going too high, you know, that's not bad, average. So the first one we're going to check is the front wheel. So we've got our meter attached and we've got it dialed round to 0, so let's see what we get. Crikey, 0.1 of a millimetre roundabouts. I've not seen it that good before. That's a record for me. Crikey. Right, let's do the back one. Let's try the same again. Also 0.1. Unheard of. That is, never seen it before. Don't know what to say. This next test checks for what's called radial runout. In English, is the wheel perfectly round or is it shaped more like a hen's egg? Let's give this one a spin and see what we get. .3, that is very good, that's perfect. Same test again, but on the rear wheel. Also 0.3. Tell you what, let's do the spoke test and see if we can catch them out. Spoke tension should be similar on each side of the wheel. This left spoke should have a similar tension to this left spoke, and we can measure this using a tool like this. This is the Park tool TM1. We just put it on the spoke and it gives us a numeric value as to the spoke's tension. We then get that value, put it into the Park tool online app, which then calculates the variation of tension between the spokes. Right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure each of these spokes, put it into the app, and let's see what we get. I've got the laptop in front of me here, and I'm looking at the results. Set it to 20%, and it's green ticks right across the board. Set it to the 10% variant, which is very good, we get one red spoke. Set it to the excellent at 5%, yes, we do get a spattering of red, but if you look at those numbers aren't actually a million miles away from each other. And what I suspect has actually happened here is to get these wheels as true as they are, the wheel builder has had to tinker with the spoke tension a little bit to get them that true. So one of them had to give, so it was a variation in the spoke tension, but it's still a very good to excellent pass. So it's impressive. One quick quality check we can do is spoke alignment. These spokes are aero spokes, so they need to face forward. If they're not facing forward, then you can get a little bit of turbulence, especially at very high speeds. Now you can either do this visually yourself just by looking at the spokes and feeling them to make sure they're facing forward, or if you've got one, you can use one of these. This is a little tool that you use for holding spokes. If I do it over that side, you'll be able to see it a bit clearer. And you can literally just pop it on and see where it sits on the spoke, and you can see straight away that all of these spokes are very much facing in the direction of travel, which is what we want. Now, I've already checked both wheels and they're all absolutely fine, so pass. An important check that is regularly overlooked is whether the hub is sat central to the rim. This is the Park Tool WAG5, or as bike mechanics call it, a dishing tool, and it's very, very simple how you use it. You offer the tool on and you bring the gauge down so it touches the end of the end cap. So now you know where the end cap is. You take your tool away, get your wheel, spin it, and then you offer the dishing tool back in. And if the wheel is perfectly dished, when you offer it up, the tip will be in exactly the same place as it is with this one. And I've already done the rear one, and that was a pass too. So, perfectly dished. The biggest concern people have when considering wheels from faraway places is the availability of spares. The things you need to worry about primarily is the free hub, then it's spokes, then it's bearings, and then other hub spares like axles and end caps. And this is where Yoeleo gets marked down a point or two. The only spare that's available on their website is that free hub. Other brands that compete with them offer a lot more. I've seen other brands where they offer most spares, not only the free hub, the bearings, the spokes, the axles, the end caps. Some of them even do those through axle to quick release conversion kits. So it's not brilliant. Saying that though, the good thing with the Yoeleo wheel is they have used all branded stuff. They are a branded spoke and they're a very generic size bearing. So you can get hold of these things if you need to. By not being able to buy spares from them does set my expectation as to what support I can expect from them. Another important factor to consider is shipping. There's nothing more frustrating, is there, than paying for £5 for something and paying £10 to get it posted to you. The good news is the shipping on the Yoeleo wheels is absolutely fine. I put in 3 addresses into their website: UK, somewhere in Europe, and somewhere in the US, and the shipping was completely free. So you've got no concerns, as far as I can tell, without me going and putting every address in the world in there. As far as warranty is concerned, the Yoeleo warranty is a bit longer than the average one at 3 years, and if you want to, for an extra, I think it was $200-ish, you can extend that up to 5 year. But a word of warning, the warranty isn't valid if you don't register the purchase with them. So if you do buy a pair, make sure you register the purchase. Okay, so let's start to sum up and look at the positives and negatives of these wheels. And the first big positive that stands out for me actually are the hubs. You've got this really good end cap with that labyrinth seal which stops all the dirt getting to those bearings. And let's talk about those bearings. They're a quality bearing that have been well protected with a layer of grease. So many brands, believe it or not, don't do that. And let's not forget, it's using a star ratchet hub, which is brilliant, and it is easy to both clean out and maintain as well as replace. And then there's the spoke interface, fully enclosed, fully encapsulated, so you've got no worries about the spoke just coming out in the event of a problem. And let's look at those spokes. The spokes are a good quality branded steel spoke. And then there's the rims with that thicker carbon layup, makes them a little bit tougher. And then you've got that holeless design, which is going to be so much easier. The vast majority of gravel riders run tubeless because tubeless works at those lower gravel pressures. So this is a really good design. And also, we can't ignore those true in stand results. Genuinely, out of all the wheels I've tried on the channel, That is the best result I have ever seen. And then there's the UCI accreditation. That's not easy to get. And the weight, yes, they are not the lightest wheels in the world, but for a set of gravel wheels that are that wide, that deep, steel spokes, thicker layup, they're a lot lighter than you would expect them to be. And the warranty, they give you a 3-year warranty as standard, which is a year longer than the average brand gives you, and if you want to, you can extend that. Okay, so let's now have a look at what I think are negatives. First of all, spares. Only having the free hub as a spare on their website sends a message to me to say they're not thinking about support. They're not thinking about after sales. It's not delivering a good message. Rim width. I'm really on the fence about this whole extra wide thing. 27 millimeters internal diameter. It's the widest gravel wheel I've seen. So it does limit what you can do with these wheels. As I said earlier, the smallest tyre you're going to put on these is 35 mil. So you're not switching these between your gravel bike in the summer and your winter hack in the winter, because the chances are with a 35 millimeter tyre, you're not going to get them on your winter hack. But am I being really picky there? Because they're being marketed as a gravel wheel anyway. So what you're talking about, John, shut up. It would be a fair comment. So yeah. Price. They're not excessively priced, but I don't think they're competitive either. Let me give you some examples. At the beginning of the video, I talked about the ICANN G25s. Now, yes, they don't have the star ratchet system that these have, and they scored 0.3 of a millimeter instead of 0.1 of a millimeter on the Truing stand. But those small things aside, those ICANN wheels delivered to your door are £170 less. Are those few things worth £170? I'm not sure. But if a star ratchet system is important to you, well, you could go to a branded supplier like Hunt and get a similarly spec'd carbon gravel wheel with that star ratchet system, and it'd still be £70 less, and you've got yourself a branded wheel. I don't know, I'm not sure about this one, because those points aside, the workshop evaluation, they're a very well put together set of wheels. So once again, am I wrong there? Am I being picky? What's your thoughts? Stick a comment below. So my workshop evaluation of the Yoeleo C45s is they seem to be a very well bolted together pair of wheels using some good quality components. But we will find out how well bolted together they are when I stick them on a gravel bike and give them a good battering for a month or so. I'll report back on that. In the meantime, if you want to watch my video on cockpit setup, it's that one up there, or alternatively, if you want to watch that video about that other set of gravel wheels I was talking about, it's that one down there. Thanks for watching.